So the way to look at this is that it's not any different from anything else or anyone else that has type 2. If you're 5 years old or you're 50 or 100 years old and you have type 2, it's the same issue. It's always the same issue. It's just that what we're seeing now is this toxicity, this sugar toxicity is happening at younger and younger ages. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons why we're seeing, 10-year-olds and even younger sometimes with type 2. And it used to be called adult onset diabetes, whereas type 1, which is when you inject insulin, was called childhood onset diabetes. And now we know, but adults can get type 1 and children can get type 2. But the epidemic
go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the
Hello.
Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
We're together today. Oops.
Yes. Oh, that's good. That's good. This is so fun. I don't know what this is. It just came up today. And so I thought, you know what? We're going to try this out just to get us started because it's just so fun.
That's funny. On my screen, it looks like I'm pointing to you, but then...
Oh, yeah, that is very interesting. Oh, this is so funny. So anyway, hello, you guys. We're so glad that you're here. If this is your first time, welcome. This is the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. This is our weekly webinar where we talk about all things type 2 related, type 2 diabetes, that is. And usually every other week, we kind of hone in on one specific topic related to type 2. And then on the other weeks, we go through the basics of what type 2 is, what's happening in your body, etc. And so often we have a group of you who hop on here every single week, and we just love that. And what we really even love is when you guys share your story of where you were and where you are now. And that is just so inspiring to everyone that hops on. So I'm probably going to change the view here so you can see us a little bit better. And hello, lots of people saying hi. Yay. Okay, so those of you on Facebook, feel free to comment on in the comments if you have a question. We'll do our best to answer those. YouTube, hello, same for you. Make sure though, if you are on YouTube, subscribe so that you get a notification anytime we upload our latest webinar. We do record these every week. And so we actually have 2 webinars each week that we do. We have our Fixed Blood Sugar webinar, which we're doing now. And then we also on Thursdays at 12 noon, we have our Healthy Heart webinar. And so
12 noon Central Time.
Yes, Central. Thank you. And so lots of opportunities for you guys to hop on and to learn, to hear from Dr. Saunders, which we just love. We love Dr. Saunders because he likes to get to the root cause of illnesses. And we're not just going to settle for taking pills all the time. With that being said, he is not your doctor. So a disclaimer, you can discuss these things with your doctor first before you implement anything that we're talking about today. I did get a fun email today. One of the things that we have talked about is, we talk about some of these new things and the latest research on things because Dr. Saunders is always researching, right? And we chatted about berberine. Well, on quite a few webinars, we've been talking about it, just the amazing things that are coming out now about it. And in one of the webinars, Dr. Saunders says, you can ask your doctor about it, but he's probably not going to know what it is. Sure enough, got an email. Someone brought it to their doctor. Doctor had no idea what it was and asked him to spell it for him because he wasn't even sure what it was. So thought that was kind of interesting. So there are some new things that we talk about on this webinar, and it's just so good. We have a lot of good feedback. Look at all of you guys hopping on. Don, Judy, Jeffrey, Irene is here. Hello, everyone. Kelvin is here from Utah. Chris, hello. We have some Canadians here. Jacqueline. Sharon is on. Joanne. Let's see. Susan says she has new blood test results and C-reactive proteins. Is this where I can ask about them? Great question. I'm going to have you ask about that in the Q&A, if that's okay. So this is the chat. There's a Q&A section if you're on the webinar. It's just easier for me to manage all of those questions there. So I'm going to go ahead and switch our screen, even though I love this. It's very fun. Maybe sometime when we have 4 of us on, we'll fill up all the chairs right there, and it'll be even more fun. But we'll change this view here. I'm going to go to gallery. Participants will return. Okay, let's see what happens. Ta-da! We're back. All right. So today, you guys, this is going to be good. We're going to talk about type 2 diabetes in teens and this growing epidemic. Dr. Saunders, what is going on? What is happening with type 2? Why is it exploding? And what's going on with our teen demographic?
Okay, so the way to look at this is that it's not any different from anything else or anyone else that has type 2. If you're 5 years old or you're 50 or 100 years old and you have type 2, it's the same issue. It's always the same issue. It's just that what we're seeing now is this toxicity, this sugar toxicity is happening at younger and younger ages. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons why we're seeing, 10-year-olds and even younger sometimes with type 2. And it used to be called adult onset diabetes, whereas type 1, which is when you inject insulin, was called childhood onset diabetes. And now we know, but adults can get type 1 and children can get type 2. But the epidemic of teens, of adolescents increasing in type 2 is for a lot of different reasons. So they start out in their younger years, and children are less active, less physically active than they used to be. So if you remember, our model of how things work is of how type 2 works. You have this cell that the cell needs energy. And so it makes something called insulin receptors that go out and they look for insulin. So they say, that's saying we need energy. And so then you eat something and your pancreas makes insulin. So that insulin comes on and says, this one needs energy, attaches to it and lets sugar into the cell. And so what happens when you have enough energy in the cell, when the cell is full, it stops making insulin receptors, so there's no insulin receptors, and over time, if all of your cells fill up with sugar, and now they're all 100 trillion of your cells are all full of sugar, and they don't need any glucose, they don't make insulin receptors, and so you eat and the blood sugar goes up and your pancreas says, we have extra sugar, we can donate to all of these cells. And it goes around and the insulin goes around and there's no cells to attach to. You can't bind to any cells. So the insulin level goes up, and then you eat more and the sugar level goes up more. And then your pancreas goes, oh my gosh, we got a lot of extra sugar, and starts making more insulin to find all those cells that need sugar, but none of them need sugar. So then that's called insulin resistance. We call it insulin resistance, but essentially it's just, we're full, so the motel is filled up, there's no vacancy. So the no vacancy sign is shut off, that's insulin resistance. So we're not accepting any sugar into our cells anymore. So the blood sugar goes up because it can't go anywhere, it can't go into the cells. And then the blood sugar goes up, the insulin goes up. So that's the process of insulin resistance. So guess what happens if you're 5 years old and the most exercise you get is these two right here. That's you're exercising just one. That's actually muscles in your forearm that you're exercising. And that's where a lot of games are played. Whereas it used to be when I was a kid, we were out, running through the grass, and we were playing tag, and we would build forts and we'd dig holes, and we did a lot of stuff. We were going through, one time I was going through a wood pile, and I found a bottle. And in those days, it was 10 cents deposit on a bottle. So I'm like, 10 cents. So I was like 5 years old or something, 6 years old. So I decided to take the bottle down to the corner dairy and give it back for the deposit. And then I could buy like a candy bar or something for the dime, right? So I'm walking and I tripped and fell and the bottle broke. And it broke up in my arm. I got a scar here still from it. I had to go to the ER and get it stitched. Anyway, we were doing stuff. We were out running around, literally physically running around and doing stuff, and not sitting and playing video games. So there's less activity. So guess what? Once it fills up with sugar, how are you going to use that energy? The cell has to use up this energy once it's, full. And it has to be, so how are you going to use it if you're not exercising? So then more of your cells are filling up with sugar, more of your cells, because you keep eating, right? And so now this is happening at younger and younger ages, partially because less exercise, not none, of course. Kids are still out playing their soccer, but then in between times they're still going there. Right?
Yes.
Uh, and then the other thing is the constant eating, where there's always food around, so that there's always insulin being produced. So there's no times when there's no excess sugar around, so that your cells can use up the stores that they have, so that the storage, it's called glycogen storage, never gets used up because of the constant eating. So the two issues are constant eating, lack of exercise. And if you think about it, whether you're an adult or a kid, it's the same essentially. But with children, we expect them as they're growing up, they've got a lot of energy. We expect them to be running around and doing a lot of stuff and using up all that excess energy. And then I'm starving, and they go in and they eat like crazy. And then they go out and they play for hours and use up all the energy. I think it was Michael Phelps, right? I saw a video on him once, and he was eating, I think, something like 5,000 calories a meal, 3 to 4 meals a day. So, these, a lot, 10 to 20,000 calorie days. But here's somebody who is swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming, and that's using a lot of energy. So, he was using it so that he didn't get diabetes, at least not that I know of. Because the cells are filling up with sugar, but then they're all getting used up as he's swimming for hours a day. So that's what the issue is, and it's really that simple. That's how simple it is. So when we have the diabetes solution kit, what are you doing? Well, we do advocate definitely exercise. There's actually a whole chapter on that. You got to physically use up all that energy, that excess energy that you have. And then number two, we give you a very low carbohydrate diet so that you don't add into the sugar that's already there. And that allows you to start using the sugar, because you're not getting enough glucose in a day for your body to burn. And so it's forcing your body to use up all the excess stores that you have. And then at the same time, train your body to start using fat for energy, so that you can have the normal 60% fat, 40% sugar burning for the amount of energy that you have. People with type 2, because they have so much insulin and so much glucose around all the time, they're like 60% glucose and 40% fat, or even less, sometimes 80% glucose and 20% fat. And that makes for a really unstable glucose energy level, unstable energy. I had somebody who came in with that, and she said, man, my energy is unstable. We looked at her hemoglobin A1C, and her average was normal. And then we got a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. And oh my gosh, she was going up to 300 and down to 60, and up to 300 and down to 60. Like in one day, she would go like 3 times these huge swings in blood sugar. And
Sorry, I'm adding a poll. I'm seeing how many of you are using the continuous glucose monitor.
Yeah. Those are great. It was great because, there aren't very many ways. We could have done a 3-hour glucose tolerance test for that. So for children, the treatment is exactly the same. Use the energy, number one, because there's only 2 problems, right? Lack of use and then getting in too much. So use the energy by exercising, and then stop taking in sugar, glucose. And that means starches too, right? Sugar isn't just like table sugar. It's starch of all kinds, like pasta and corn and rice, and even beans and breads and cereals. Oh my gosh, cereal, cold cereal. Okay, so our idea of a breakfast being cold cereal was given to us by some very, very good marketing people. And you know what? We know about marketing people. In reality, you know, Barton Publishing is a marketing company. That's what we do. And I got to tell you, we had a conference or retreat, our annual retreat for Barton Publishing. So everybody that comes in, and we have discussions about, you know, how our marketing is going and how our sales are going and all that stuff. I got to tell you, so I'm not into that. I don't do the marketing and sales stuff. I just write. That's all I do, and talk. So these guys are these guys are the real deal. And so when I asked the question, okay, why do we have to do this kind of marketing that's kind of like cheesy, like you have this half-hour video, and people actually call me and say, why do I have to watch the half-hour video? Do you know what? You know what their answer was? That's how we get their attention. If we were to have just this is what we do, people go, oh yeah, that's interesting, blah, blah, blah. But it wouldn't get their attention. And so I'm like, oh, so he said, yeah, you know, you can get 1 to 5% of the people, you can get their attention with just a regular, this is what we do ad. But you need something like cinnamon rolls to get other people's attention to say, look, we've got a program here that's going to work. And you know what? It works. And anyway, so that's so
good.
When it's a child, the program is the same. It's okay. You get the same kit. You get this diabetes solution kit. Yeah, the one. Yeah, that one right there. And you start them on the same program. Exercise and stop taking in extra carbohydrates.
Yeah, guys, and this is really, really simple. We love this. So this is what Dr. Saunders recommends to his patients that are in his office. And you know, I can see I even have some messages that have come in today where people are asking, okay, what supplement do I need to reverse my type 2? Dr. Saunders, what would you say?
The supplements are not going to reverse your type 2. Drugs are not going to reverse your type 2. Really, the only thing that you can do is get rid of the toxicity. And that's what we've been discussing today.
Yeah, you know, and I've gotten some emails from people today. In fact, I'll probably read them here shortly, but they've been told that you can't reverse your type 2. You have to take drugs forever. And that's unfortunate, I think. We have a plan here, guys, and this is very inexpensive. So you can get the digital version of this book, or you can get this hard copy too, but it goes through the stuff that Dr. Saunders is talking about a little bit more in depth. And so that you can actually have a plan. So you can know what you're going to eat. You can decide the foods you love, do the work, which is mostly food, reducing stress, exercise, those kind of things. But we have had thousands of people do this with great results. In fact, if you're on the webinar right now, and this has been helpful for you, you've seen success, will you just comment and let us know? Because we need everyone to know that there are real people doing this. You can do this. It may feel hard at first, but it becomes normal. And it's also not forever. You slowly move through phases. You don't have to be so restrictive forever. You're just seeing how your body works. That's what I kind of tell people is the Diabetes Solution Kit kind of teaches you how your body responds to food. You'll notice even like with the continuous glucose monitor, you're able to see immediately what happens. But we also have people who don't have the continuous glucose monitor, and they notice, you know, when they're in phase 2, going to phase 3, they notice that their blood sugar spikes when they chew gum, sugar-free gum, you know, of all things. But they might be fine drinking a little bit of juice. Who knew? Right? Everyone is a little bit different. So that's the beauty of the program. But you can find this at bartonwebinar.com. Use code webinar25 and you'll save 25%. And I'll post that. But I want to get to some of these questions that are coming in because I know that they are. Actually, first, before I do that, I want to ask one more question of my own. How much time do you recommend for people between meals? You know, if they're not supposed to snack, if you should just eat your meals, how long do we need to go?
That's a great question because I had a patient in this morning and she has issues with, it's rosacea, but digesting. And so she doesn't digest proteins very well. And so she gets celiac disease and has problems digesting proteins, which gluten is a protein, right? It's a wheat protein. So, she asked the same question: how long do you go between meals? And the optimum is between 4 and 5 hours, because you want your stomach to be empty, and you want to produce ghrelin that makes you hungry. That's the hunger hormone. And because when you produce ghrelin, then you reset the whole system. You reset your system for digesting, for enzymes that are going to digest proteins, for acid production. Your stomach has to make acid. And a really strange thing happened when they got those pH meters that you could swallow, and they followed people's stomach acid. And people who had the worst acid reflux, and they go, oh, I have so much stomach acid, oh, I can't stand it. They had low acid, but it was constant. Whereas people who didn't have acid reflux had high acid and then no acid, and then high acid and then no acid. So that's what you want. You want a lot of acid when you eat so that you can digest things well. And then you want none in between meals. If you just have a constant level of low acid, like you're eating all the time and just make this constant low acid, then that actually causes stuff like acid reflux and ulcers and gastritis and all those issues. So having between 4 and 5 hours between meals allows you to reset the system so that you can have a lot of acid. And then after your meal's digested, it goes down to 0. You make the ghrelin, and then you reset the whole system again for another meal.
Interesting. How do you feel about the water? Or can you drink water in between meals? Will it still work the same, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Water.
All right.
Water will stop ghrelin production, but the stomach empties according to calories. So if you fill up on water, it'll drain out really quickly.
All right. Good stuff. Again, guys, that site is bartonwebinar.com. That's where you'll find a link to our YouTube channel. You'll find a link to our products. You can register for both this webinar and also the Healthy Heart webinar. So I had some questions about that. Yes, the YouTube channel is Barton Publishing. Okay, Judith said that I read that to reverse type 2 permanently, that we need to fix our thyroid. In my attempt to do both, I took chromium picolinate 6 weeks. I went to bed visually fine, woke up with vision loss of 50%. More research I did said that if you are hypothyroid, the chromium picolinate could cause blindness. What's your opinion of that?
Wow. I wasn't aware that, I don't know, is it the chromium or the picolinic acid that would cause blindness? No, I've never heard of that. I'll have to research that and come back next time.
Okay. Susan said, my doctor told me to stay on Dr. Saunders' program because I'm showing great improvement on my A1C.
Woohoo!
Yay, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Let's talk about A1C. What is that and what should our numbers be?
Okay. A1C is sort of an average of your glucose over about 3 months. And the way it's measured is they measure how much glucose is attached to the red blood cells. Because as the red blood cells are swimming around in your blood, there's glucose in there, and the glucose is sticking on to the red blood cells. And so if you have a whole bunch of it stuck onto your red blood cells, that's a high hemoglobin A1C. If you have low amounts of glucose, then that's a low hemoglobin A1C. So the optimum level is about 5.0. 5.0 is like the perfect place to be. If you're 4.9 to 5.2, that's fine. But think of it more on a scale of where do you want to be? Here's optimum, and then as you go to 5.4, 5.5, you're getting up there, and then we consider 5.7 as the cutoff. Above that is pre-diabetes. And then above 6.5 is diabetes. So you have this range of pre-diabetes, and then above 6.5 is diabetes, or above 6.5 and up. So some people, when they start with us, they say, well, I started out with 11, and now I'm 5.8. And they go, and the doctor still wants me to be on medications. Well, 5.8, yeah, technically that's prediabetes. When someone comes from 11 to 5.8, that is like amazing. And I don't think that warrants the medications necessarily. I would take something like berberine instead, if that was the case.
Olivia sent a message and said, I printed out all of Dr. Saunders' videos and review them regularly to remind me of why I'm doing this. My life has totally changed. I feel great. I'm staying with the diet, exercise several times in a week. I started 2 years ago and will maintain this lifestyle. I'm exercising right now while I'm watching and listening to the webinar. Thanks,
Great.
Team Saunders. Yeah, Olivia
That's
is awesome. I love this. Love it. Okay, Randy said, I'm surprised by how much sodium is in the recipes that we received. Is that does sodium not push cholesterol up and blood pressure up? Any thoughts?
Okay. We actually have webinars on this that we've discussed dehydration. So look for the dehydration webinar where we discuss hydration status and what it means. Sodium is a requirement. You have to get at least like 4 grams of sodium a day as sort of a minimum. But if you drink a lot of water, you may need even more than that because you lose sodium as you urinate because you're getting rid of sodium. Your kidneys get rid of it too. So what you want is to maintain an adequate level of fluid in your blood so that your blood isn't too thick. You want an adequate amount of fluid. And it's not water that does that, it's sodium. If you don't have enough sodium and you drink a bunch of water, you're gonna pee all that water out and actually lose some sodium and potassium in the process. And so you're gonna be more dehydrated. In fact, I've dealt with this a lot lately because there are so many people that come in that think they have to drink a gallon of water a day. And I'm like, and they're dehydrated and I'm always thirsty and I'm drinking as much as I can and I'm always thirsty and I have to get up at 5 times at night to urinate. And that's an issue because what they've done is they've depleted their sodium and potassium by drinking so much water that they're constantly dehydrated. So yes, the sodium is really important for maintaining hydration status. And that's why we say add salt.
Yes. Quick note. Only 15% of the people who responded to our poll are actually using a continuous glucose monitor. Are they hard to get, Dr. Saunders, or why doesn't everyone have them if they have a diagnosis?
Well, because they're kind of new and a lot of doctors don't know about them, so they're not prescribing them. And then like insurance companies have said, well, we'll cover it if you have type 1, but we won't cover it for type 2. So it may not be covered. And then some of the doctors won't write a prescription unless you have like type 1 or you're using insulin or something. So there's a lot of like caveats in there of when you can use it. But there is actually a company, I forgot, Joe told me about it this weekend and I forgot the name of the company. But you can go online and look up CGM, continuous glucose monitor. You don't need a prescription or anything. You can just order it, and it's like, he told me how much it is. It's like $200 a month, something like that.
Okay. Very interesting, though. But I mean, the people that have them love them, and they've been able to really see how their body is working. So there's your poll results. Stop that. Okay. Iman says, what is the best type of magnesium supplement to help lower blood sugar and blood pressure? Is there a correlation?
Magnesium is very important for metabolism. There are 300 different enzymes that require magnesium or they won't function. And the other part is magnesium is what relaxes all your muscles and makes your heart work properly, makes your nervous system work properly. So magnesium is super important, but because it's used with a lot of enzymes that make energy, that it does help it helps you to be more efficient in the use of glucose. So it doesn't lower your blood glucose, it just helps your body to use it efficiently. So that's one. And then the other is muscle relaxant and to just make everything work well, to have enough magnesium. So it's hard to get too much, because we don't have a staple food in our diet that has magnesium. Magnesium is found in nuts and seeds and legumes like beans, peas, lentils, and then green, anything green. The color green is green because of magnesium. So, so those are the things. And so what do we have in our everyday diet that is that nothing? Well, you could say wheat, like from bread, but most people eat white bread, and the white bread has the magnesium taken out of it because it's in the germ or the bran. So we really don't have a staple food in our diet that's high in magnesium. And when we eat lettuce, we eat like iceberg lettuce or romaine lettuce that have a very little bit of magnesium that makes them slightly green. We don't eat like kale and spinach. Well, some people do, but not as a daily kind of thing. And you don't want to eat spinach on a daily basis because of the oxalic acid anyway. So that makes it difficult. So the question was, what's the type of magnesium that's the best? And I get that question a lot. And the fact is, just make it simple, that if you're taking magnesium, you're getting extra magnesium. The fact that a chelated source of magnesium, like magnesium glycinate, is 20% better absorbed than magnesium oxide. Okay, fine. But you know what? The magnesium oxide is still giving you magnesium. So as long as you're not taking a medication like Prilosec, something that shuts off your stomach acid, which will prevent magnesium oxide from being absorbed very well at all, then you should take a chelated form if you're on something that shuts off your stomach acid. But if you're on one of those, you should get our acid reflux kit and figure out how your stomach works.
Yes, good idea. Okay, guys, bartonwebinar.com. You will find a link to our magnesium. And if you want to use code webinar25, you will save 25% on that. I use mine at night. I spray, and my husband uses it at night as well. And we really like it. I think everyone on the team uses it actually, but I have a fun note from Susan. So she just got a lot of her results back. And she said that her C-reactive protein quant current result is 7. She got her A1C down to 6.6. Her goal is 5. And her cholesterol is 250 HDL, 39 and her cholesterol is 250 HDL, 39 and LDL 181. How do I get this down without having to go on medicines? Okay, so a lot of numbers there.
Okay, 250. Well, HDL is that's way too high. HDL needs to be like 40 to 90 or something.
I wonder if it's the 39.
39, that would be HDL. Okay, so the total cholesterol is 250.
Yes.
Okay. And HDL is 39. Okay. Okay. So the simple way to handle all 3 of those things, so to lower your C-reactive protein, which is a little bit elevated, and to improve the cholesterol ratio. And that's what's really most important. Actually, 250 is a normal level. That's in the optimum range for cholesterol. And then, so the best way to handle that would be to be on a high fiber diet. So if you go into the Diabetes Solution Kit and you look at free foods, and there's a long list of free foods, and it's broccoli and spinach and cauliflower and lettuce and tomatoes, avocado. So all of those things, they're generally pretty high in fiber. And so you add in a lot of that and then decrease the amount of protein and actually protein, because you're going to eat less meat or whatever, because you're going to be having more avocado and spinach and broccoli and stuff.
Is there ever a reason that someone shouldn't get a lot of fiber?
I don't know. I've had people tell me they just feel so much better on a carnivore diet, and that's a very low fiber diet. And I don't know.
I sometimes wonder if that's a short-term thing, if you feel good on it for a little while, I don't know.
Yeah. Just curious. I don't know either.
Okay. But it seems like there's a lot of research coming out too, just about how good the high fiber diets are. And I know that Dr. Saunders recommends that a lot, even on our Healthy Heart webinar. So if that's something you're able to do, add a little more fiber, it's good to try. Good to try to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Connie said my blood test for C-reactive protein has been running high according to the marker. The doctor hasn't discussed this with me. So what is this? We just kind of talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, so C-reactive protein is a marker for inflammation, and they use it for cardiovascular inflammation because what they found was that any kind of inflammation increases cardiovascular disease. Well, why is that? Well, because if you have inflammation, you're more likely to get clots. So it increases clotting. And remember all the vascular disease, oh, you wouldn't remember it, on the cardiovascular webinar. Tomorrow, we'll talk about this. How the lining of the blood vessels it protects you from clotting, and if that's worn away or damaged, then you can form clots there. And so the problem is clotting, and that's where the inflammation comes in. If you increase your inflammation, you increase clotting, and then you get more vascular disease. So the C-reactive protein is just a marker, and the problem with CRP is it can, it's not specific for anything. It can indicate allergies or even diabetes. If you have type 2, your CRP can go up just for that reason if your cells are in distress. And so that was what one researcher, when they did research on CRP to say, you know, what does it really mean? What is CRP? Where does it come from? What does it mean? And they said, you know, the only way we can really say it is not inflammation, but cellular distress. So what do you do about it? Well, you got to find out why it's elevated and then go after that. If it's inflammation, that like an infection will make it go up. If you have toxicity, it'll make it go up. If you have type 2 diabetes, it'll make it go up. So the first thing, since this is a type 2 webinar, we're going to look at metabolism and say, okay, go on the phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit and do that first. Get your insulin levels down, and your CRP should come down to normal. If it doesn't, start looking for other sources, such as inflammation or infections or something like that.
Right. John asked, he said, I need tips on how to lower my A1C from 6.4 down to 5.7 or lower. The last 2 months, my lab report was 6.4. My morning fasting readings range from 85 to 95 every morning. What do you think he needs to do?
Okay, so here's what I think. This is actually not a bad scenario. So I want to generalize it to people. So you have normal morning fasting blood sugars, and here you have somebody with, you know, between 70 and 90. That's right. That's where it should be in the morning. But the hemoglobin A1C is still on the pre-diabetes side. That tells you something. So that means that the hemoglobin A1C is an average. Your morning is normal. What that means is that your after eating, it's going up. So the hemoglobin A1C is averaging high because after a meal, it's spiking. So if he were to get a continuous glucose monitor, he would see after eating, boom, goes up to 200 or something like that. And then it drops down low so that the hemoglobin A1C is better, but still not normal. And so that's an indication of insulin resistance. And there's several ways to handle that. One is to space out between meals, to train your body to be fat burning, to use up all the glucose in your cells. So exercise is a great way to stabilize blood sugar, because what it does is, remember, those cells are filled with sugar, and if you're just doing the diet, then you're getting less sugar in so that your glucose doesn't go up in your blood, but the cells are still filled up with sugar. You have to use that up too. So there are various ways of doing that. Exercise is a great way for a lot of different reasons. And actually fasting is a great way too, to stabilize blood sugar. So when you get to the point that you have your roughly 60% of your energy comes from fat and 40% from glucose, then you're going to have a much more stable energy level, a blood sugar level, than if you're doing like 60% glucose and 40% fat.
Now, when you say exercise, what type of exercise do you mean? What do we need to be doing in order to make a difference here?
Well, from everything I've read, it really comes down to one thing: the one you like. So what you like to, whatever physical activity you like to do is going to work. Whatever, if you do physical activity that someone else recommends and you don't like, people go, well, I hate jogging. So, but the doctor told me to jog, so fine, I'll jog. And they're going to what? Do it for 1 week and then what? Nothing. So finding something that you really like. Some people just want to be with other people, so they go to a Pilates class or a yoga class, and they're and they're joking as they're exercising and they're doing their stuff, and they want the class. Other people, they want to just like focus on themselves and run on a treadmill. I can't stand a treadmill. Running in one place for me is boring. It's just so boring. I can't do it. But I know a lot of people who they wouldn't do it any other way. They actually bought a treadmill and they use it.
Yeah.
Most people I know that have treadmills, they use them for hanging clothes.
Yeah. You also live in a nice part of the country. Those of us in South Dakota can only run a few months out of the year. So we have to have the treadmill.
Okay. But use it for hanging clothes.
That is true. I actually have been to a lot of people's homes and I see their clothes hanging from their treadmill. So that is a true fact. I have a really good question here from Brenda. Brenda emailed, says that she has type 2 and CKD, something kidney disease, or what is that?
Chronic kidney disease.
Okay, chronic, stage 3. I desperately want to get off the, oh boy, this is a word. Zigduo. Starts with an X.
Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, a combination of metformin and dapagliflozin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm praying the all-natural Synachroma I'm taking eventually helps me to do that. Is Synachroma and Healthy Gut Restore safe for people with stage 3 chronic kidney disease?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, your question was, is it safe? The answer is absolutely yes. It's formulated specifically to be at a level that is not going to become toxic. Your kidneys don't need to get rid of it. It's not going to build up levels. It's the right level, and it's going to help your kidneys to function better. So for those two reasons, yes, Synachroma is fine. But you said something in there that I want to take, that I want to just talk about, right? And that is that the Sigduo or the Synachroma is going to control your diabetes. Don't look at that at all. That's not the issue. That's not what's going to help you. Really, what you need is to do phase 1 of the program. And this is really important because I've seen people reverse stage 3 chronic kidney disease and go back to stage 2. Stage 2, you still have a normal kidney function. Glomerular filtration rate is still normal. Even though there's decreased kidney function, you would only find it if you tested for it. That under normal circumstances, you wouldn't see it at stage 2. Stage 3, you're actually seeing it on the general testing. So the way to do that is to go on phase 1 of the program because the problem is insulin resistance. Remember, we were talking about this before. That sugar, glucose cannot cross through like the blood-brain barrier. The barriers can't cross through membranes. It has to be taken in actively by these proteins. And if you have insulin resistant, you don't make those proteins that bring the glucose into the cells. So your kidney cells, your brain cells, your heart cells are starving for glucose in a sea of sugar. Does that make sense? Well, yeah, when you know that the sugar can't cross the membrane. So you need those insulin proteins or insulin receptor proteins, and you won't make them if you're insulin resistant. So you got to get that insulin resistance down. That's the key, not the drugs, not the supplement. I don't even care if you throw away the Synachroma, although it'd be pretty good just because I don't know if that might be one of the reasons that the glucose system isn't working well. So that it would be okay to continue that. Yes, it's safe. That's the answer to your question. But it's not going to fix your problems. Go to phase 1, do phase 1. That's going to fix your problem because your insulin resistance drops down, and then your kidney cells start getting sugar again, glucose, energy.
Good stuff. Okay, Robert said if insulin is such a problem, why do doctors prescribe insulin for people with very high blood sugar?
Marketing. See, we're a marketing company, and we market things like Synachroma, and then I keep telling everybody, don't take Synachroma. I'm a terrible marketer.
But tell us why Synachroma was created and why it is important when you're doing the diabetes solution kit.
Okay, so here's what happened is in order to find a good diabetes supplement, if I was looking at diabetes supplements, it would have a list of 100 different vitamins and herbs and stuff in it, and little tiny amounts of each one. So you take one pill and it's like, that's it was the wrong doses, it wasn't right. And so I would have to give people like 5 different capsules to follow, and they go like, I don't want to take all these pills all the time. So we made one that has just the 5 ingredients that I find people are really deficient in. And I test people all the time. I've tested thousands of people. And the common deficiency, chromium, vanadium, selenium, vitamin D, and vitamin K. These are common deficiencies, and they are really important for using glucose properly. So that's the purpose. It is not to fix your diabetes problem, unless actually, I have had a case of somebody, and we've had several people call in and say, wow, I started taking it, my blood sugar dropped immediately. And that's probably because they were so deficient in probably chromium, which is the most common, so deficient in chromium that they actually had diabetes because of the deficiency. So as soon as you add chromium in, boom, it goes away. Yeah. So that would be the cause of it. So they fixed the cause.
Wouldn't that be a fun solution? That would be a fun solution. Oh, look, I only have to take chromium. There you go.
Yeah, it's true. Fun.
Okay, so, but tell us anything else you want to add about insulin. Why are doctors recommending insulin? I've been confused by this still. There's something I must be missing also.
No, because the companies that make insulin market it as, this is for diabetes, and the companies are purposely not distinguishing between type 1 and type 2. Right. Type 1 is not enough insulin. Type 2 is too much insulin. So because type 1 is not enough insulin, they go, diabetes requires insulin, and that's absolutely true. But then they extend it out because only a few million people have type 1 diabetes, whereas you have 90 million people with type 2 diabetes. So it's a huger market. So they're marketing to type 2 diabetics when they really should just be marketing type 1 diabetics because they have the same word diabetes. So that's why.
I mean, yeah, I'm just shocked by it. Okay. Let me see. Here's a message from Judy. I asked for people to message me if they had success with the diabetes solution kit. And she said, yes, absolutely wonderful. I've lost 50 pounds since March. My A1C is 6.1. My doctor is so happy with what I'm doing. She even gave me the choice of when I wanted to come back. 3 months, 6 months, a year. I took the year. And she said, if I ever need her, I can come back sooner. My cholesterol was great. I have asked my doctor to really explain what diabetes is, spent $150 to help understand, did not really understand. After it, I went to Dr. Saunders and he's given me so much. And I'm so thankful that I found you all. Words cannot express how much.
Wow, cool.
I know. That is awesome. Thank you, Judy. We're so happy you're here. Okay, Ronnie says, or Randy, I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I donate platelets. My highest count was around 400. Is this too high for normal platelet count?
It's not too high. It's on the high side, and there's other factors that are involved, like how big your platelets are. So sometimes if you're in the 400 range, which is on the high side, if you have smaller platelets, then you're gonna tend to have more. Whereas people who their platelet level is 200, they may have larger platelets. And so there's more involved with just the number. And but yeah, that's on the higher side of normal of platelets, which is sometimes an indicator. When someone has high platelets, sometimes it indicates that there's inflammation. So look at your sedimentation rate and your C-reactive protein and see if there's an inflammatory process going on that causes that.
Okay. Message here from David and Cindy. I have a question about taking Synachroma before bed. I had heard that it would help reduce my numbers when taking my reading first thing in the morning. Is there any truth to that?
Again, we talk about this a lot, the sunrise effect on glucose, because when you wake up in the morning, you make a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol makes you insulin resistant, and also you make glucagon that tells your liver to make some glucose. So now you're making glucose and you're insulin resistant, so the blood sugar tends to go up in the morning. Which is why we always look at that morning level. And so, yeah, you're not eating at night. Your glucose is great at night. That's fine, but you have a totally different system going on at night than in the morning. If you've ever looked at circadian rhythm and the hormone balances and how different they are from night to morning, yeah, there's a lot of difference there.
I have a couple messages here about glucerna or glucerin. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Glucerna. Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
Okay, that's all right. So he doesn't have any thoughts about it right now.
I have no thoughts.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ask this. It says, I'm new to this. I'm currently taking 2 metformin tablets per day, one injectable each week. With your treatment, do I need to stop taking metformin? So if you're doing the diabetes solution kit, should you stop your metformin?
Talk to your doctor about stopping metformin. And that's all we can say. It's your body and you have to deal with whatever issues are going on. But look at your specific circumstances. And it's not just one thing like what your blood sugar is necessarily. Hemoglobin A1C will enter into that. Your diet, what you want to do with that. I think, I think you should just talk to your doctor about it.
And as your numbers start to go down from using the diabetes solution kit, there will have to be changes that need to be made. So if you come to your doctor and your blood sugar is significantly lower, they may say, "Ooh, we need to cut back a little bit on your metformin," or who knows, but that's what we hope happens.
Okay, so the glucerna,
yes,
it's the shakes, and I was trying to look at the ingredients, what's in it, and it's I object to it. I don't, actually, you know what was really interesting? They sent me a box. The company sent me a box of glucerna to hand out to my patients, and I put the whole box in the trash. So that's my answer to your question.
Okay.
Is it any good? No, don't use glucerna shakes or any of those, any of the shakes.
Okay. Valerie said, when I get my berberine, should I only take it or take metformin as well?
Oh, you could take berberine and metformin. That would be okay. But you could. They're okay.
Yeah, just watch your numbers. Make sure you don't get too low. Okay, I've been on metformin for several years. For the last 4 years, it has been 200 milligrams a day. Doctor tells me my kidney function has been steadily decreasing over the years. Is there a possible correlation?
Unlikely. At 200 milligrams, would that be 2,000 milligrams a day?
2,000.
Yeah. So it's possible, unlikely. There isn't really a good, the studies have been done that don't show any correlation of chronic kidney disease due to the metformin itself. The chronic kidney disease is due to the diabetes. So the way to handle this is to get the book and do phase 1 of the program and just be very focused in doing the phase 1. so that you can get your insulin resistance down, so that you can so that your kidneys can function again. That's really important, because if you can see on the test the kidney function decline, that's not a good sign. And so to avoid having to go into kidney failure and go on dialysis, what you really want to do is to get your insulin resistance low. So you want insulin sensitivity high.
Okay. Yeah. Olivia said, I believe Lucerna has a lot of carbs and sugar. Sorry, I'm trying to read through these as quick as I can because, guys, the webinar time is almost over already. Okay. Verna says, can you take too much vitamin D?
Yes. Yeah. Too much vitamin D can cause you to absorb extra calcium, and you can get hypercalcemia, too much calcium that causes nausea and cramps. And it makes people not feel good. But other than that, if you get enough vitamin K, then you put that calcium into your bones. And there are people who have gone 1,000,000 units of vitamin D and don't have any issues. So yes, you can, but the vitamin D itself isn't toxic. If you're absorbing too much calcium, then that's where you feel the toxicity of it.
Okay, so Eric is on, and Eric is just super thankful for our program. He comes on every week, and he says even though Dr. Saunders isn't his real doctor, he's still his doctor. So I just love that. He does have a question. He's going back on his diabetes solution kit. He's wondering, does he still need to get berberine? It says super vitamin 3D supplements and omega-3 capsule and magnesium. Do I still need to take all of these?
Oh, no, not necessarily. No. Those are for deficiency.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough, if you're not getting it in your diet for whatever reason, then that's what the supplements are for. And they're common deficiencies, but not everybody needs them. So really the needed part is the phase 1 of the program is to actually do the diet, do the program.
Right. Brian says, thank you, Leslie and Dr. Saunders, for helping me. I'm feeling great, which is awesome. Mercedes takes 30 units of insulin every night. In addition, I take glipizide. I have type 2. Should I stop them or reduce them little by little?
Okay. Good question. So I'm not your doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, right. And this is where it gets sticky, because I don't know your specific case, so I can't advise you specifically, but I can give you general principles. So the general principle is that most people who have type 2 have too much insulin, and glipizide causes you to release more insulin, and then you're injecting insulin. So now you have too much insulin, and you're stacking more insulin on top of too much insulin. So that is where the problem comes in. Mm-hmm. So unless you've had your insulin level tested from your pancreas, which is called a C-peptide, if you have that C-peptide test, then you know how much your pancreas is putting out, and that gives you a good idea of whether you need insulin or not. So have the test done first, and then you can say that you don't need it or you do. In some cases, I've had people who just need insulin.
Interesting. Okay. All right, guys, that's it for today. Dr. Saunders, thank you so much. Go bless your patients.
You're welcome.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to see if I can answer any of these questions that have come in. Okay, I wanted to get to your question here, but we ran out of time. If there's any chance you can hop on to our Healthy Heart webinar tomorrow, you guys, you can register for that at bartonwebinar.com. That is our heart-specific webinar at 12 noon Central on Thursdays. It's free. Dr. Saunders comes back on and we talk about all things heart. Let's see. Ronnie had a question. What is phase 1 that you keep referring to? Great question. That is in the Diabetes Solution Kit. So this is a 3-phase plan, mostly eating plan, to help you reverse your type 2. And so phase 1 is really reducing your carbs. You're going to eat 20 net carbs per day. And so net carbs are when you subtract the fiber in order to get a net carb. So carbs minus fiber equals net carb. So under 20 grams on phase 1. That's what we're referencing when we say phase 1. And then there's phase 2 and phase 3. But you can find more information about this at bartonwebinar.com. I know there are more questions, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's see. See if I can quick look here. Hello, Anku. I'm not going to be able to answer medical ones. What do I do for phase 1? Again, that's where you're going to want to go to bartonwebinar.com, and you can purchase the diabetes solution kit. In fact, use code webinar25 to save 25%. Brian says phase 1 is just a temporary situation. Just do it and get past it. You will be happy. Yes, Brian, thank you for that. Let's see. Mordecai says, I just got the kit yesterday and I'm excited about starting the program. Awesome. Come back here. Ask your questions as you go. Also, guys, there is a group on Facebook called Barton Webinar. It is a private group. I'll have to let you into it. But if you're on Facebook, Barton Webinar, that is kind of our little community. You can ask questions there and people will hop on and give you their thoughts too. Okay. Anything else that I can answer? I think that's it for today, guys. So come back next week. Come back tomorrow for the Healthy Heart webinar. Lots of good information there too. Again, bartonwebinar.com is the site that you want to use to get all your questions answered. We even have our list of top 10 questions that we get asked. And there are videos with Dr. Saunders answering those questions. If you look at our supplements as well, if you click on them, you will see a description for each of our supplements from Dr. Saunders. So if you're curious about some things, he can answer those questions on the website. So, Butch, I haven't seen any information on those watches, but that's a good question for Dr. Saunders that I hope we can ask. Okay. That's all I can ask right now. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week, possibly tomorrow. bartonwebinar.com. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.